I told her, like, it wasn't off of, somebody telling me, hey, Deja, like, this is a scam or this is a pyramid scheme, like, nothing like that. It was purely like me seeking out information, critically thinking about what I was doing, like, every day. And she was like, well, I'm sorry that you sought out negative information and let those people get to you. And I was like, are you listening to me?
All right, so it's been almost 2 weeks since we talked. So what went through those couple weeks when you were in the office? How was that?
It was like the entire week I wasn't doing what they wanted me to do, and my owner was like getting on me in her own way, though. It was like really interesting, and I kept testing the waters, and I had to pretty much decide. I was like, well, I don't want her at my graduation anymore because she was kind of like forcing herself into my personal life.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, yeah, I would love for you to do that if you weren't, doing this. And my family didn't know about the, everything that's happening. So I had to tell her, like, hey, I just want to get my extra tickets from school and they only gave me one and I'm gonna have to use it on my boyfriend, so I can't use it on you. And I got like the full 5 extra tickets. But she was really salty about that. Um, and that same day she got salty because usually when she's like in the field all day, I think I remember telling you about how like we had to move out of the office really quickly and I had to like
Yes.
work from home. Okay. So I had to work from home for a while. So I had this like phone program on my phone. So it like hid my number when I called people. So basically it was like a good situation for me because whenever she was in the field all day and it did make sense for me to come to the office, like I would just use that program on my phone and work from home. So she told me, she was like, hey, Thursday, like no interviews, like I'm going to be in the field all day. And the week before, she had done the same thing. So we had like that agreement, and I had been doing that for a while. So on Thursday, I didn't come to the office. I remember texting her at like 8 a.m. and I was like, hey, like, did you want to pass this person through or something like that? And she was like, yeah, but are you almost here? And she had been doing that every day to me, like that week. She was like, it's 8 o'clock. Like, 'cause at that point, I did not care if I was late or not. I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's fine. Um, so I was like, no, like, you're in the field all day. That doesn't make sense. Like, I'm working from home. And I'm gonna pull up her text because like she started treating me the way that she treated like her reps,
Yeah.
like putting them like on their back foot and things like that. Um, I don't remember talking about that since I know you're not here Friday and Monday. And I was like, I'm not here Friday because I'm graduating. It's not like I just took a day off. Like,
Hmm.
what? And at that point, I was like about to go off on her, and I was like, nope, not yet. And then when I told her, I was like, well, we've been doing this since we had to move out of the office, so like, I guess I just assumed. And she was like, gotcha, let's make sure we have like full times for interviews tomorrow and Monday since retention has been down. And I was like, first of all, retention has been down from my retention because mine's usually at a 60% and the national average is a 40%. So it had been going to its national average. And I was like, it's retention's down, you mean like by my standards, but don't try and make it like my fault or something. It was just, I was like, okay, I see you. It's okay. That's all right. And then that night I told her she can't come to my graduation. And she was like, okay, no worries. And I know when she says that to people in like interviews and things like that, like she's just doing that, like she's still salty. So I was like, okay, cool. And then she even texted me on my graduation day about work and didn't even say like, oh, like happy graduation day, nothing like that. She was like, she sent me like a screenshot of something and I was like, bro, like, okay, cool. I get it. So I basically like I think at that point um, I was pretty much done. Like, I don't, and I remember that day on Thursday, I didn't even screen people. I remember I was like, they want 20 people, they're going to get 20 people. And I was just like, yeah, do you want to come in for an interview? And people were like, yeah. And I was like, cool. And then I just like put them in. I didn't even explain anything. Or if I did, it was really vague. And I had 20 people, by the end of the day. And then they wanted to do a recruiting call with me that day. And it's like all of them didn't remember that I had graduation. And I was like, yeah, well, I kind of have to go because I graduate tomorrow. And they were like, oh, yeah, like that's so cool. And I was like, okay. So I was just like done.
So when did you come to the decision that Tuesday I'm done? And did you let anyone know, or did you just go in knowing?
Ooh. Uh, I think in my soul, I think I knew Thursday when she started to flip on me. And I know it's a business and I know you have to look out for your business and things like that, but it was like obviously beforehand I had received all of this love and support from them when I was like their perfect little admin, just doing everything that they wanted, not asking questions, not doing these things. And it was like as soon as I started to do that, I started to notice like I lost favor. So it was like, oh, Deja's asking all these questions. And at first it was like, oh, we really like that Deja's asking questions because she wants to learn more about the business. And then once I started asking questions that could be taken as like, oh, like we're having to work on answering these questions for her. That's when it was like, oh, let's take a step back and like put her on her back foot because I noticed that I think everybody started to do that with me. And at that point, all of my mentors were gone. So like each one that I had fostered a relationship with, they were all gone. So nobody was really talking to me like how it usually went. So I didn't do breakdowns anymore.
Right.
And since she had kept that away from me, I was like, well, if it's so much of an environment that you have to like shelter me from just simple information like that because you're worried that I'm going to quit, then that's a problem.
Yeah. Once you begin to challenge their narrative, you find yourself out of favor fairly quickly. I would think.
Yeah, that's what happened. So
So you know that I'd have to ask you about the conversation with your owner,
oh,
because I
oh,
know in
juiciest
our
part.
yeah, as I know in our previous interview, you said you wanted to be honest with her and tell her straight. So first, were you able, looking back, do you feel like you were able to tell her everything that you wanted to tell her?
Not everything, and I'll explain why.
Okay.
So I I was nervous and I was anxious only because I truly do care about her, and that's always like I don't want to say it's my weakness, but it is a weakness of mine. Like no matter what somebody does to me or whatever, like I'll still be like, you know what, I truly care about you. So with her, I was just like, she's brainwashed, but I'm gonna try and be the lights and pull her out. And I knew that the odds of that weren't going to be great for me, and I knew that like she's literally trained to take negative things like that and just like push them away no matter who it is in her life. So I went in with it's so funny. I went in with a list of things I was gonna say. I had like a bullet point for each because I was like, I will not be swayed today. So I went in like at 8, and I remember she opened the door for me, and she was on the phone with her promoting owner as usual. And I was like, okay. And I was trying to get it done before like all of her leaders came in and everything because I knew she was gonna cry. Like I just knew it. Like she's gonna cry. So that didn't work. There were like 2 leaders like in the leaders room already. And they were talking to me because she had closed the door because she was on the phone, and she had written notes in my office like on who to call and things like that. Like totally was not expecting this at all. So I like went in there just to make sure I didn't have anything like left, things like that. And then I was just waiting outside of her door until I heard her conversation end. And so I heard it end, and I heard her talking about like, I don't know, it didn't sound like it was like a pleasant conversation like for her. So I kind of knew I was going in and she was already a little bit off a rocker. So I was like, okay. Um, so then I went in and I was like, hey, can like we talk? And she was like, yeah, of course. And she noticed I had my bag, like I didn't put it down. So like I could see her face like start to change like when she realized it. And then I was like, hey, I really want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to business you, smart circle you. I don't want to talk to that person. And she was like, yeah, of course. And I was like, no, like I truly mean that. Like I don't want to talk to business you right now. And she kind of like got more serious and was like, yeah, of course. Like, of course, Deja. And I was like, mm. And then I basically was like, yeah, so obviously it looks like I'm about to quit because I am. And I was like, it's not like an easy decision for me because I really do care about you. But I was like, but I can't lie to people anymore and I can't manipulate people anymore. And I also told her, like, I want to speak and then you can speak. Like, I really wanted I wanted her to, like, push on her brakes and, like, just listen to me. It didn't go as planned, which I'm kind of disappointed about. But like I literally was like, I can't manipulate and lie to people anymore. And she goes, what do you mean lie? And I was like, I literally just asked you not to talk. And I was like, the whole business, it's lying to people. I was like, we're constantly manipulating and lying to people. And she was like, well, Deja, you don't have to lie to people. And I was like, dude, I literally have a binder full of things to say to people that aren't true or that are just like variations of different paragraphs in that same book just to try and draw them in. I was like, that's not manipulation at all. And I was basically like explaining to her that I had a really good support system because I know a lot of them say like, oh, you have one negative person in your family, then that drags you down. And I was like, literally, I had nobody doing that to me. In fact, after talking to them and telling them that I was going to quit, they were all just like really happy for me and told me that they didn't want to like break the news to me because I was so happy. And so I told her like it wasn't off of somebody telling me, hey, Deja, like, this is a scam or this is a pyramid scheme, like, nothing like that. It was purely like me seeking out information, critically thinking about what I was doing, like, every day. And she was like, well, I'm sorry that you sought out negative information and let those people get to you. And I was like, are you listening to me? Like, is this like, are you just not hearing what I'm saying? Um, it was like really interesting to go through when I was trying to tell her, I was like, and like, you're supposedly like an owner, and there's plenty of other offices around the country that do the same thing that we do. Their office just looked different. I was like, but you're running your own business. So, and she was like, well, yeah. And I was like, that doesn't sound like entrepreneurship, but okay. And then I was like, and you always told me that Smart Circle just like supplied the inventory for you. You didn't tell me that they actually own the clients. And she just like looked at me and like really didn't have an answer for that. Cause I kind of just like kept the ball rolling. And I was like, but I can't like sell a position to somebody that doesn't really exist. And, she said to me, oh, okay. And then I told her, I was like, yeah. And like, when you have somebody come in and you bring up that there's outside information that's negative about the business, like, don't tell somebody not to watch it. I was like, because I watched those videos and they're very objective. And like, she went further and was like, that's that's totally negative. Like, those are all a bunch of owners that have failed. Like, literally the script, like, I literally told her, like, don't give me a scripted answer. And she gave me the script. I was like, okay. I was like nodding and smiling when she was saying that. And she was like, I know you're not listening to me because I see the look on your face. And I was like, well, you're telling me the same thing that everybody's like telling you to say. And I was like, I've heard you say this before. And she was, and then, do you remember when I told you it was in the last video and I told you that she had like an inkling about Smart Circle and she,
Yes.
okay, and that email that she got from
Yeah, like
other,
it was like the previous business owner or that she sent. Yeah.
so before she had used that email as, oh, like Deja, read it and like tell me what you think. And, you know, what if this is actually bad? Like, what do I do? And so she brought up that same email and said, like that email I showed you, um, she was an owner that just failed and didn't know what she was doing. And she got shut down because she wasn't compliant. Like, literally, I was like, you, we just had that conversation. I was like, and I know you know that we had that conversation because I was in here and you showed me the email and you told me, you asked me what if, you know, it really is what she's saying it is. I was like, so what? You got on the phone with your promoting owner and she told you all of the same crap that she's feeding to everybody else so that you could feed it to everybody else? That would happen? Like, so I just kind of looked at her and I was like, okay, like, you're definitely gone. That's cool. And she started to cry when she was like, it breaks my heart that you think that I'm doing something bad. And I was like, okay, first of all, if you're having to defend your your business, saying that it's good when I've just brought up all these things that you keep negating in the same ways that everybody else is, and you're crying about it in front of me, and I straight up told you I didn't seek negative anything. I've been doing this by myself. Like, shouldn't you think a little bit more about it? Like, shouldn't you stop just like pulling, you know, they've already like jacked up your mind and they've already got so many things like in your muscle memory that you're just going to pull out for me anyway. But like for a second, I'm talking to you. Like, I didn't have to drive to Orlando. I drove to Orlando to have a face-to-face conversation with her. And she still like gave me very, very impersonal and genuine responses when at the very beginning I said, please do not give me that because I think I deserve more because I think we've built more than that. But it kind of just showed me that became, I very quickly went from being us to them. And it was like as soon as I opened my mouth, I saw her like immediate change in like just demeanor and how she was looking at me. Like I didn't feel like the warmth anymore. I didn't like it was very like cut and dry. Now I'm that person that's like speculating and being negative because I asked questions and I told her, I was like, I just started to think critically. Like that's the only thing I started to do. And then I started to get very, very negative reinforcement from you guys. Like you were not wanting to encourage that at all. And it was really interesting because one thing that really pushed me to do this even sooner than I had planned was like, and I was in the office, I think it was that Wednesday or something, and she had told me that a former rep was coming in to pick up her paycheck. And she came in and we were just talking. It was just me and her in the office. And I was talking to her because they had said that she quit because of like mental health problems with the position and how it wasn't good for her. And I was kind of like trying to scope her out to see like if that was the real reason. So I was asking her, I was like, hey, like, how's how's it going for you like mentally? Like, do you feel better? And she was like, yeah, like I feel better. I think I'm gonna go back to school, things like that. And she was very, very smart. Like went for like she had just gotten her master's in business, things like that. Like very sharp girl. Um, and she was like, I think she quit when she was like on month 2 of leadership or something. And so we just like kept, it's like we kept like scoping each other out, when like two dogs meet each other and they're like, are we gonna be friends? So it was like me like trying not to be like, hey, did you know that it's like a scam? Like, did you know? And I was just like waiting for like the right moment. And then I kind of told her that I was going to leave soon. So she wanted the admin position to come in and take it. And she like was like, oh man, like why are you leaving? Like they love you so much, blah blah blah. And I was like, well, like I've realized some things that I just don't match up with. And then she kind of looked at me. We just like stared at each other for like a good 5 seconds. And she like basically went on to say like, wait, like, do you know like what I know? And so we started to talk about it. She actually hadn't seen your videos at all. Um, and so I like shared it with her, and it literally she only got through the first minute before being triggered. It was really funny. She was like, "I need to watch this at home. I can't do this right now." And she had told me that like her parents had speculated, and another campaign manager with her like had speculated because they kind of quit like at the same time, and it was like really shocking to everybody. So talking to her, we talked for like an hour.
Wow.
Just yeah, we literally just because it was like she finally found somebody else that was like realized it or whatever. And she was like, yeah, I just realized like how much I was working and not getting paid for it, and how like the more like I could get overworked to a certain point and my paycheck still sucked. Um and she was like, and it got to the point where I remember her second round, well, I guess her third round interview retention was really weak. And she basically told me, she was like, yeah, I wasn't lying to people. I told them when they got to my position what was going to happen, how much they were going to work, and everything like that. She was like, I was being honest. And she got reprimanded from the other owner in our office for doing that. And she was like, well, you're not going to have any retention. You're not going to build your team. And she was like, I'm not going to build a team because I'm not lying. And I guess he was like, well, obviously you don't get the business and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, dang, I'm really sorry that you went through that like for so long. And I guess her and the other girl had a, a field day just talking to each other. And I didn't know this, but I guess like you guys were told to like not network with the same level of people.
Yes, network up.
Network up.
Yep.
Okay. So she told me that like her and that other rep were like just like going out for dinner or something. And she's like the closest to assistant management, with closer with my former owner. Um, and I guess she reprimanded them for like talking and saying like that's how negative like ideas start and blah blah blah. And I was like, well, I guess you're right because they both put their heads together and figured something out because they're gone.
Yeah.
So it was like after talking with her, and I like obviously I showed her the video. I like sent it to her and I told her like, like now you don't have to feel so alone. I was like, because I don't know what you went through. I was like, I only know what I did. So if you at least can like talk to other people and feel a little bit better, especially if she's going through like anxiety issues. I don't know. After talking to her, I felt like kind of like, oh wow, it's not just me in this office or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had actually gotten, ooh, this was like some tea I forgot to spill. This guy had interviewed with us, and like we hired him on like quicker than usual, quicker than 3 day span. It was like in 2 days. Um, and he came on and he's like super sharp, blah, 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 blah. Which I still don't understand why we were so focused on hiring sharp people if they're the ones that are eventually going to ask the questions. Like, what? Anyway, so he comes on and he like passed like, I think it was like 2 systems on his first day.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Overachiever right there.
Yeah, so he did like 5 steps, and then he did, I think LOA's next, something like that. And so I remember they were like, oh, like he's gonna be like the next leader and all this stuff, and he's like passing through things. And I remember I had gone into the meeting that day just to like take pictures because I would send them to CLI, and he just looked like he was thinking, like just like he just looked like something was brewing. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that's just his face, but it wasn't. So then, like, he had sent a text because I remember I just didn't see him in the office anymore. And that's really typically what happens to people. Like, you just don't see them around. And turns out he had sent a text to all the leaders, to the owners, saying that this was a scam, like, literally just exposing everything and saying that ownership was, like, a joke and things like that. And since all the leaders had gotten it, like the 2 owners had to really, really, really like push down everybody's throat. Like, he's lying, he's just upset. But it was like hard to even push because it was like, how is he upset if he was in the business for like 2 days?
Right. And that's the thing, like, because you mentioned the networking between reps, and because I know throughout the business, like on day one, they tell you, they tell the leaders, don't let all the day ones stand together. Don't let them group together. You don't want to network on your same level. You want to network up, and it's a way to stop the critical thinking from beginning. Because if multiple people notice things, and they start to talk to each other, then the veil of secrecy is not there anymore, and it becomes more difficult for the business to dupe everybody. So I mean, it's presented as an idea of, oh, well, network up. The person that you want to be is above you, so network with them and you'll get to their level. But it's actually a brilliant technique to stifle dissent.
Oh, yeah. It's really interesting, like the admin like community, because it's like, oh yeah, like they had like a sheet that they shared with everybody. It was like people to network with, and there were other people in other offices.
Mm-hmm.
So we never really networked with people who either, like, I didn't know anybody that was just starting off besides the girl that I started with. But I just remember they always said, don't compare, and
Yeah.
like, don't do this or that, because initially I was better than her. And better in terms of numbers. Literally, that's it. She just had a quieter personality. But like, I remember they were like, yeah, don't compare. Like, it's fine. Like, just do your own thing. Like, steer clear. Don't do anything. And you're like, okay, like, whatever. And I remember I gave her a few rides home, and they were like, always asking me, like, hey, like, how was that? And I was like, I don't know. I just drove her home. Like, what do you mean? Like, so I guess like I could see it that way. And that's so true. They didn't let anybody stand together like that. Wow, that's crazy. Well, whatever happened to Homeboy, he was not on board. But I remember like when that happened, she like texted me that night, my owner, and she was like, hey, like, who's blank blank? And I was like, I don't know. Like, he had a very generic name, so I was like, I don't know. And so I just like logged on to applicant stream and like looked it up, and I was like, oh, it seems like he was hired. And she was like, oh, well, he's on the other owner's team, and he just sent a text doing all this, blah, blah, blah. And she was like laughing about it. She was like, oh, that's so funny, blah, blah, like he's just mad. And I remember I was like, well, I remember like at that point I was like, well, why would he be mad? Like, why would he say that?
Yeah.
Initially, like, what does he have to gain from it? So when I was talking to the former rep in the office, she brought him up, and she was like, yeah, I remember at that point I was just really like skeptical about everything. And I guess her parents were, because they are business owners as well. So they were like, well, why are you setting up and doing all of these things if you're not getting paid? And just like a lot of things that I guess her parents had already brought up to her. And the thing is that like she was somebody that is really sharp, like has a master's degree.
Yeah.
And when I was talking to her about it, she was like, yeah, well, it was really interesting because everything that I learned through the company, like I like learned the opposite in school. And I was like, oh, so how do you feel about that? And she was like, well, I would purposefully like not use my systems in the field and I would have more success. And I was like, dang. And then I was like, oh, so like on your breakdowns, what'd you say? And she was like, oh, I gave them what they wanted to hear, but like I wasn't using my systems at all. Like I would start to take even more breaks and I still had more drops than the person who's like using every single system.
Yeah. And you brought up a really good point with the guy, your owner's supposed defense of the guy who was only there for a week or two. You know,
Yeah.
someone like that has nothing to gain from sending out a text like that. And and I think and the owners, the people that are critical of all of you and me and all these people that are doing these videos feel like we have this vendetta against them. And you know, we're mad at them for not succeeding. Bullshit. We're telling the truth. We're trying to get like the deception out of here to prevent people like you and me, and probably by this point in time hundreds of thousands of others around the world, to not get sucked into something like this. But they only see it as, oh, they were a failure, therefore they're mad, they're angry that they didn't succeed.
And it. And it was funny when I was talking to her when I was quitting. I'm telling you, because I even called her out. Maybe that's what she was meant. I was like, you know, we have a very similar personality. I'm very gullible. Like we're very like caring people. We always assume the best in others. And I was like, so we're the perfect people to fall for these things. And she kind of like looked at me like, what? And I was like, we've already talked about this. Like, it's not like this is like a foreign concept to you. And I was like, but eventually, like, I start to think about things. And I was like, so I don't know where you got lost in it, but like, obviously, like, you've been lost in it. And she, like, was like, oh, well, you know, I'm not lying to people in my interviews and things like that. And I was like, well, I have a lot of things written down, and I could call out a lot of those things right now, but okay. And then I was like, well, don't worry. I'm not going to go text everybody and tell them why I'm leaving. I was like, I don't know what you're going to tell them, but it's okay. Like, I won't reach out.
The standard response is you've reached your goals, or your goals have changed. So it's going to be one of those two things, I'll bet you.
Yeah, she's probably going to be like, oh, well, Deja just graduated, and
Yep.
she wants to.
Yep,
Yeah.
You graduated, your goals have changed.
Yeah, probably. More than likely. And I remember I just, like, she was like, oh, well, don't worry. Like, there's enough strong people in the business that won't fall for those things. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. That's cool. Like, it was just really interesting how quickly she turned on me. And it was like, oh, now I'm weak-minded and I'm no longer like all these qualities that you guys said I was before. Like, I'm quickly somebody that's the opposite of everything because I sought out something negative. And you know what's funny is as soon as they told, it was like I started to get more responsibility, like I told you.
Mm-hmm.
And they started to give me like 3 things to do extra to recruiting. And one of those was to write a review on Glassdoor each week like I was a rep.
Mm. Yeah, I often wondered where all those positive reviews came from, because I remember being in meetings where the owner would say, hey, make sure you talk us up positive reviews. And that's why if you notice, a lot of the positive reviews are clustered. So like there will be like in 1 week 3 in a row, and
Yeah.
because they just put out a request for it. So I never thought, but yeah, I guess that makes sense that the admin would have something to do with that.
Well, it's funny because I think it's like most admins do it like after they've been in the business for a while. So once I started to be really hungry and they called me the next Chelsea and all of these things, and to think that I was like that far in to they wanted to make me like the head of all admins, I was like, oh my God, like that is awful. Like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? But I was like, yeah, but if we're like Glassdoor is something that's really good for people to get like honest like opinions about, you know, businesses. So I was like, well, now I'm like why would I compromise that?
Yeah.
especially because I was posing as a sales rep. I wasn't even like, it wasn't even like, hey, just like leave a review like it's you. It was like, no, like you have to get on different IP addresses.
Oh,
Um, yeah, like it was entailed, Alex. It was like get on a different IP address and make sure that you alternate between 3 to 5 stars, but always recommend to a friend.
this is deception with a capital D. Like, why even a brainwashed person should be able to see how deceiving this is.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. I think I did one. Um, and I pretended I was like an event manager or something. And like I remember we got like one that was it was like not it like it wasn't a bad one, but it didn't recommend to a friend or something. And I remember like she was like, okay, well like I'll go on and do one, like my owner. She was like, I'll go and do one. And I was like, why are we doing this? And then she would like ask everybody like go on Glassdoor and do this and that. There was a lot I wanted to say to her when I quit, but she was quickly, quickly shutting me down. And like everything that I was saying. And once she started crying, I was like, well, I don't know if I should like really go for home and be like, hey, so how do you feel, having one day off a year and promising all these people that once they get to your position, they're going to make 75K when I know you don't have enough money right now because you're not even paying rent. So like, what is it? Like, why are you still having like days in the field, like after recruiting and, you have no free time. You're not in your sister's wedding. You're like the list goes on.
Hmm.
And I like really wanted to go in for that, but like she started to like put her walls up and it was just like, it was really sad because I thought that she would listen to me or try, but I knew I was like, and I know you're gonna get on the phone with her promoting owner. I was like, I know you're gonna get on the phone with her, and she's gonna spoon feed you the things that you really want to hear, and you're not gonna have any other objective information. You're literally just gonna have her telling you like, no, like, don't don't listen to her. Like, obviously something negative got into her life, and then she just asked me about my paycheck. She was like, so do you want it mailed? And I was like, well, I have direct deposit, so I guess it doesn't matter. And then she opened the door for me, and then she closed the door, and then I left. Like, I felt good doing it, but it wasn't the feeling I wanted. Like, I really was wanting her to, like, at least not give me one scripted answer, but she
Yeah.
gave me all of
You
them.
wanted to talk to the person,
Yes.
but once you're in, and I don't remember who said it. One of the past people I interviewed said that this is a machine. There's no feeling, there's no emotion. It's a machine, and you were bringing in something that was incompatible with her machinery,
Yeah.
um, with her technology, and she went with the programmed technological response.
Literally the same thing that I've heard, and it was just really disappointing. I was like, wow, I really thought you were still there, but I mean, I guess not.
Has she or anyone else from the company contacted you at all?
No, it's
No.
been dry. And I was at first, I thought my former mentor would have said something, um, but nobody has reached out,
Yeah.
like at all. Um, I had like my emails synced in like all of the like on my computer just because I work from home for so much.
Yeah.
So like it automatically pulls up that Gmail account. So I did see that they were like it was kind of like a nice thing to wake up to. Like the promoting owner had sent an email saying that I had quit and that we needed to get and that they needed to get her what's that called? A remote booker.
Yeah.
And then she said that there weren't any left and I was like, look at that. So I think her recruiting like stopped for the week because they have to find a new admin. But if there's nobody
Yeah.
like left to do recruiting, then she's in a bit of a pickle right now. But
Hmm.
she's trying to talk to me. I know she's not. I don't think she'll talk to me for a while.
If she gets to the point where she can realize what she's in,
Hmm.
she might reach out to you. But just from everything that you've shared with us, these both past two interviews, I don't think she's reachable. Because as soon as you said yourself, as soon as you started going against the script, and you said I started seeking out other information.
Yeah.
Other information to them is negative information. And like you said, she had a response for everything. She had a pre-scripted response for everything. Because she's literally wired for that right now. She cannot think for herself. And if she has worked all year with one day off and is making probably maybe less than you made as an admin, literally, and
Yeah.
she's still fighting for this,
Yeah.
she's not going to be reachable until she has some type of aha from the hand of God moment. And
Yeah.
every owner I've talked to so far has had that at some point. For some, it took 3 years in ownership. For some, it took a year in ownership. How long has Caleb been an owner?
So like I got hired on as her admin, so
So
six,
probably 6 months, not even a year.
7 months, yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, so she's probably got a while. She's probably going to still be an owner well into 2019. Maybe and if nothing gets better, and if she starts to wise up, and maybe someone sends her your interview, who knows? Someone from her circle says, hey, this girl you used to confide in a lot, have you seen this? And she's actually has the free will somehow to watch your story, and that
Yeah.
edifice might start to crack a little bit. Maybe this time next year.
Maybe. It's just interesting to me because her boyfriend, um, he works for Sam's. And it's been interesting to me because like I thought like he would recognize it or like say something to her maybe. But it seems like they both work so much and things like that. Like I don't it's really like I literally don't know if she even explains it enough to her family so that they like even know
Yeah.
like what's
Well, I'm
up.
sure because in our last interview, you said about the fact that she's not going home for the holidays is to avoid stress with her family. I'm sure this is the reason because I'm
Yeah.
sure she doesn't talk to them. If she hasn't had a day off in a year, she doesn't see them. They're probably
Nope.
on her about it. They've probably told her before this is not what it seems. And
Yeah.
you know, she doesn't want to hear it. So
Mm.
it's easier to avoid it. So that's why she's staying. She has her
Yeah.
one day off and she's going to spend it by herself.
One. Yeah. And it was so funny how she was like so willing to tell me all these things, but I can like bet that they're gonna be like, yeah, you can't have like that personal relationship with your admin again. All I want to do is like tell all these people like leave, like you can do better, and it's just so hard. Like I would rather be like right now I'm literally just applying for jobs and interviewing and things like that. Like I'd rather be doing this than like working. Like and that was like the part that I like literally had to come to grips with is like I would rather be broke
Yeah.
than lie and manipulate people. And it just really made me laugh when she said, I don't have to lie to people.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, what am I supposed to use? Like, I was trained to.
Yeah.
Like, and she really didn't have a rebuttal. Like, most of the things that if she came at me and then I gave her another challenge, she, like, couldn't answer me.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, they didn't train you for that one?
Yeah.
Why can't you just, like, respond? Like, and I wanted to ask her, like, well, what am I supposed to say? And it almost sounded like she was trying to convince me to stay. But I was like, you know, I don't know, you're shit out of luck. I'm not, like,
Yeah.
there's no way that I could, like, Like walking in there like made my stomach turn.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really awkward because the two leaders were like still in the office and like the door was open. I have no idea if they heard what I was saying. But like I didn't even say bye because I don't have the heart to. I was like, I know you're gonna look at me and you're gonna want to ask me questions and I'm not gonna want to lie to you and
Yeah.
then she's gonna be right there and I don't know what to do. So I was like kind of leaving it up to people, but like half of me wants to be like this person that just tells them, but it's like really hard to I guess decide what to do. But I hate that people are doing this and they're gonna waste so much of their lives like pouring in.
I get the paradox because you don't want to appear like the person who has some kind of out for the business or your owner or anything like that. You don't want to appear petty. You don't want to appear vindictive. But the other side of that is they're intentionally hiding information from these people and intentionally manipulating and deceiving them. So it is, in a sense, in their best interests to know about it. But you also are pretty much talking against someone that you had a very personal connection with for the past 6 months.
And the thing is though, like I think about it, I'm like, well, what is Kayla gonna say about me to them? Because I'm an admin. Like it's not like I was in the running for ownership or any of that nonsense. Like she can't even say like I wasn't making money. Like it, literally, like I can't think of something that she could say if I like send out like my videos to them or anything like that. Like what? Like I can't even think of an excuse that she would say like, oh, Deja is like I'm not salty. I didn't get fired. I didn't like fail out of school. Nothing really bad has happened to me in the past 6 months. I graduated. Like I I can't even like think of something that she could be like, yeah, Deja just had a rough time dealing with X and decided to do that because it's not like I was trying to go for ownership or anything like that. That's the thing is like you can't really spin anything on me. What am I trying to do? Like I could have easily kept going to my 8 to 5, with my hour break a day, just sitting in the office, booking interviews, like being a robot. And I could have probably gone on to that, mentorship and train people, things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not like they promise you a lot as an admin. You're kind of just like there to be the owner's, like right hand man or, voice of reason,
Yeah.
things like that. So it's like, no, you know, I still really do care for her. I feel bad for her. I still care about her. I still care about a lot of the people that I personally did recruit and let her in there, and I feel terrible about it now, even though I have to like separate that and be like they're their own person as well. They have to make their own decisions, and
Yeah.
that's the kicker. But I'm just like, what could I possibly have wanted besides just speaking out and giving out information?
I can guarantee you that if it comes up, she will either say that you graduated and your goals changed, or you're pursuing a new opportunity, which I guess is unemployment.
I guess,
But
yeah, say
um,
that.
or if she wants to spin it another way, she could say that you let negative people influence you, which I am. I'm a very negative person.
Very negative. Sorry.
Um, and she will probably find something if the interview is brought to her attention. She will probably find something in it to where you were saying like you took your computer to work and you were applying to jobs, that you were slacking off, you weren't dedicated, you weren't making the calls, you weren't making the numbers. So we
Mhm.
had a mutual parting of ways. She will
Okay.
spin it in one of those ways, probably.
Yeah. Well, I hope if she ever says that, I told her when I was quitting, because she was like, "Well, you've been really like unfocused for the past month," and I was like, first of all, it's been 3 weeks. I know exactly how it's been. And second of all, like I've been doing that because I have this thing called like a conscious and like it's like in my head and I can't lie to people. It's like this really weird thing. Like I really care about others. It's wild. But, like I was just like, yeah, I've been unfocused because I felt like when she said that, I was like, yeah, I've been unfocused. You're right. Because I realized what I was doing. Like, it wasn't like, oh, like since she can't pull as many numbers in, now she's doubting things. It's like, no, I still had the capability. I showed y'all that my last day recruiting. I still had that in me to put 20 down to give you at least 40% for your interviews. I gave you 50. So you can't even say like that I was like bad or anything because I wasn't, and you guys knew that, and that's why you tried so darn hard to persuade me in the last like week I was there. It's not like I'm stupid. Like, yeah, I was gullible enough to fall for your crap for about 5 months, but like eventually people are gonna settle in and like see what they're doing, especially an admin role. I feel like because I feel like admins have the opportunity to be a little bit more critical because we get to see the ugly stuff, the ugly side of recruiting, and we have that huge binder that I showed you last time that has all of our little secrets in it, and that's why when she said you don't have to lie, I was like, I know I keep going back to that. It was just like so weird to me that she was like, you don't have to lie, Deja. I was like, okay, I'm going to give you this binder and you can proofread it. And you let me know if I've misread something. Because I feel like if somebody asks me a very direct question and says, is this sales? That my response should be yes. Like, I don't think it should be this whole long paragraph switching it on them.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for someone watching this video who might be where you were and is thinking about either is questioning themselves in the business or is thinking about, is this where I need to be?
I think especially someone that's in an admin position, like know your advantage, and know that like you have so much information and data that you can pull from. And if you start to see that, you start to challenge them and start thinking about different ways of just if you just want to try and help them improve and they're kind of stifling you, like know that you're in a pretty bad industry and you should probably get out because they're not looking for changes or any type of improvement or growth or opportunities. They're just looking for you to fill these like robotic positions and do exactly what they want. So I mean, there's so many other opportunities out there, like real opportunities, not what they're selling to us. And especially like if you get like 6 months of recruiting in, like, goodness, you can make 150 calls a day. You could actually be doing it to somebody else and giving somebody else a real opportunity if you really like recruiting and like actually learning how a real business functions and learning about actual HR procedures and things like that. And as for the reps, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how I don't know how you did it for that long. Like
I don't either. Like that whole year is a blur to me. I really don't know. It was just something that you do. I mean, it was something that you, like you said, you get up early every day, you drive, you go to the meeting, you go to the field, you work your way through the field. You get done at 7, you drive home, you go to bed, you do it again. That's what I did. Like I've asked myself that too. As while I edit some of these videos, sometimes I think about
what did I
how did I do that? How did I manage that?
Mm-hmm.
And you just do. You just exist. You don't have personal relationships. You don't have time. You just exist.
It's just so awful. See, at least admins have a little bit better situation.
Yeah.
But like, it's all very, like you said, like cult mentality. It's crazy. Oh, I said the C word to her. I said, this is like a cult. And she looked at me. And I was like, so you're just not going to deny it? Okay. That's cool. Yeah, I said like it's very like there's a lot of cult techniques in this, and she didn't say like no.
Hmm.
So maybe she didn't have a maybe they don't have a scripted answer for that one.
I think that's too powerful of a word for them to rebut. Like pyramid scheme, scam, okay, but cult, there's a whole lot of power that comes with that word. So I don't think they're intelligent enough as far as actual thinkers to
Right.
form a good enough response to that.
Yeah, because I think overall in the business, like you have to be a follower.
Hmm.
Like you have to be like to stay in it because like I think a lot of the people that have come out of it, like you definitely have like a leader mentality. Obviously, if you took that and you actually got out, but I think staying in it and really, really believe in it, like you're easily swayed. Like there's not much that could tilt you the other way. Like obviously,
Yeah.
if you're pretty much sworn into this, so and that's what I see in her. So it's really sad, but